Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, welcome. On this channel we post writing tips, unboxings, book hauls, book reviews and the occasional vlog. And today is a writing tips video and we are going to discuss how to write characters with ADHD. A disclaimer, there are multiple types of ADHD. This video is not going to go through all of them or even go through the different types. This is a writing tips video to help you to write characters who may have ADHD. Everyone with ADHD is different and ADHD represents in very different ways from individual to individual. This is not a video to self-diagnose, and research and updates are occurring in the world of ADHD all the time. So by the time you see this, things might have changed. But this is just a general guide if you want to write a character with ADHD, things to think about and things to further your own research. And with that, let's get into my 10 tips. If you like what you see, don't forget to subscribe to this channel. Your continued support means a lot, so thank you guys so much. Number 1. People with ADHD are still people. If you're not new to my channel, you must be sick of this piece of advice because it is in every single writing tips video when dealing with characters. Characters with ADHD are still characters, therefore you still need the background, all their likes and dislikes, all the different personality traits, because ADHD is not a person, it is a part of a person, so bear that in mind. You write a character with ADHD the same way you would write any other character. Number 2. Does your character know they have ADHD? For an example of this, I'm going to refer to myself in this video. I do not know if I'm ADHD or not, but I am on the list currently. I'm being referred to a GP to be tested. I do not necessarily know. However, my life has changed just knowing that I might be in that area. For example, if your character knows that they have ADHD, then they may have coping mechanisms to deal with the ADHD. If they do not know, then they won't have these coping mechanisms. Before I got on the list, I did not know and I was struggling with life, which is why I got myself checked. Now, I am on the list to have a full diagnosis, but that does mean I know that I might have. So I have looked up strategies and I am so much better now because it helps. Not only does it stop myself from beating myself up when I lose focus, it stops people being angry with me when I accidentally leave conversations without realizing that I have. But most importantly, I can cut myself some slack. It also means that I now know I definitely listen better when I fidget. So all that time I spend trying to stop myself from moving, especially when I'm in office environments, is very detrimental and pointless because nothing is going in. Which leads me on to number 3. Do the people around your character know they may have ADHD? If people around you know, like in that example I just gave, they can react differently. My partner was one of the people who told me and advised me to get checked because he thought that I might have this. Now, we are 14 years old. We are getting married this year. And he thought that he was just being a boring person when I apparently would leave the conversation mentally without knowing that I was. Now, he knows it's not on purpose, that it's not him being boring. My brain's just gone and I'm not in control of that. And it means he doesn't think he's a boring person, which is much nicer for me to know because I felt really bad. And I still do feel really bad when I leave a conversation. And I try really hard. But it's good to know some things aren't things you can fully change. And now that he knows, he doesn't get upset or anything. He's just like, oh, have you gone? I think you've gone. And I'm like, whoa, I'm back. What happened? Sorry. Or when I ask him to repeat things, he knows it's not on purpose. My brain just went somewhere else instead of the thing I wanted it to do. And that's okay. It also means we know why certain tasks I am better at than others, and vice versa. Like cooking, for example. I regularly get bored cooking, so I cook quickly, or I burn things. It depends on how quickly I can do it. So Matt likes to cook because he says sometimes raw potato isn't nice. I don't get it. I think it's fine. Number 4. Do not over-exaggerate. I gave you guys some examples there of how I've been represented and why I am getting checked. As I've said at the start, I'm on the list. I am not diagnosed. I might be, I might not be. but knowing that I might be has helped me a lot. But I gave you examples of how it can show. It does not mean I am like that all the time. It does not mean every single conversation I'm not listening to. It doesn't mean fidget permanently, or I kind of do. Do not over exaggerate for your characters. Just because you want a character you represent as ADHD, it does not mean they have to constantly be like, because that is not what it is like. I don't randomly shout something in a conversation. I can be looking at someone and the brain has gone away, but it doesn't just go squirrel. That's not how ADHD works. Also, ADHD has been misrepresented a lot. Just because someone has ADHD, they are not always the naughty child. They are not always bad at school. They're not constantly hyperactive. They might be, but they might not be. There are many different types of ADHD and it highly differs in how it represents, which leads me into number 5. Less is more. Representing a character on any spectrum who is neurodivergent is a lot better, to be honest, when it's done accidentally, when a character just comes across that way. Do not read up about ADHD and try to hit every single type of stimming, every single type it can show as, because every person with ADHD does not represent every single type of those things either. It's not likely. As I said at the start, people with ADHD are people. You write them the same as any other character. You can just pop certain things in there. A good example of this is the main protagonist from Grey's Anatomy is always fidgeting with pens, always, or throwing balls. They're always moving around, even if it's in minute ways, which is a common part of ADHD. Not everyone's going to do that, but it is a common thing. But it's never said that they're ADHD. They do not say, I am ADHD. It is just a part of them, not who they are. Number 6, masking. This is another reason why less is often more. Many people who are neurodivergent mask. Now, masking is a term used for when someone copies those around them or minimizes their stims, their natural ways of being, of existing, in order to fit in with the world around them. Now, this A means that you might know a lot of people with ADHD but not realize they have it. This is the common thing of why people who are late diagnosed are told they're annoying all the time, and then when they are diagnosed and they tell people, they're told, you don't have that, because they mask, okay? It makes it hard to diagnose and people get better at it with age. But one thing that is common with masking is that it is exhausting. So when someone masks, when they leave that situation, they will be more tired than if they hadn't had to mask. So bear that in mind with your characters. You can, it's difficult, but you can control certain amounts of your ADHD. But it hurts, it is detrimental to your health, and it is tiring. Number 7, big emotions. A common part of ADHD is having big emotions. It's why, especially people who are neurodivergent, can be seen as childlike. You can get very excited, especially about special interests, but you also feel all the other emotions larger also. So you may be seen as overreacting. It may be dramatic. You're often told you're too much. You're either too loud or too quiet. You're hyperactive or you're lazy. It's all of these extremes, and it's very common that that is how you've been seen throughout the world. So if you're writing a character with ADHD, they might be a bit more emotional than other characters, or they might show the emotions a lot wider or broader than the characters around them. Again, as I said at the start of this video, ADHD is different for everyone. Not everyone will be like this. It is just one of the parts of ADHD that your character could show. Number 8, ask people / beta readers. If you are going to write a character with ADHD, make sure some of your beta readers are diagnosed with ADHD. If you want to tell them there's a character with ADHD, then you can. If you want to just see if they recognize it in another character, then do so. I really enjoy a book recently, The Cemetery Boys by Aidan Thomas. I don't know if this character has ADHD or not, but they were screaming it at me and it just felt good. I don't know why, but the main love interest in Cemetery Boys I'll put a link to my review above if you want to see my review on it. I do talk about it in that video. I think they represent. That's my personal opinion. They might not. A character accidentally representing is better than a character who is forcefully representing. Another way to get your book checked is to send it to a sensitivity editor. I'll pop a link above to my different types of editors video, but a sensitivity reader or editor basically checks your work for sensitivity. Now, they do specialize in different types of sensitivity, but they can check you haven't overstepped, if you haven't represented badly or insensitively. Number 9, hyperfocus versus inattentive. A person with ADHD can hyperfocus to the point where they will be angry if you interrupt them. The whole world around will shut off. They will not hear things. They will not smell things. They will not know. It often leads to someone fidgeting and making a noise without knowing they're making the noise. It can irritate people around them because they might be trying to talk to them and that person is not hearing it. Often this used to happen. As I said, I'm on a list, I do not know, but I do know that I often zone into work, and it's particularly in the office, which is why I prefer to work remotely. When I'm in an office, I will be working and I will be very zoned in on my work. Someone will literally be shouting at me and eventually I will realize, oh, yes, but jump out of it. And they often look irritated at me, like I've been purposefully ignoring them. Had not realised, had not heard. The first time I've heard is when I've jumped and heard them. If at home and I'm hyper-focused and if Matt comes to interrupt me, I can get annoyed. So we have a closed door system, and if I remember, he'll close the door. Sometimes if I just don't respond to him, he'll realise and just leave. But you can get irritated if someone interrupts you. On the other hand, there is being inattentive. This is where you cannot physically focus. This can be due to too much going on around you, but it can also just be caused by burnout, by just not having that mental capacity anymore. And this is when I would say you sit around and possibly look lazy, but you're not. You just don't know what's going on anymore. Or your mind has completely left the conversation or the meeting. You can't focus on the work. You just physically can't do it. And it is like slow torture, trying to force yourself to do it. And finally, number 10, spontaneity. This is perhaps one of the biggest associations with ADHD, besides the fidgeting, is being spontaneous versus being very structured. Often people with ADHD are found to like doing things in the spur of the moment, changing things up, trying different things. There is the stereotype of having many different types of hobbies and getting really into them and then dropping them and then going on to something else. This is where the over-exaggerated squirrel idea comes from, which is harmful. However, spontaneity is common with people with ADHD. I've mentioned a structure in there because there is a type of ADHD, which is AUHD. This is autism with ADHD. As you can imagine, those two together causes mental brain fuck because you need structure or you get anxious, but also when you have too much structure, you get depressed because ADHD brain needs spontaneity and new things. So AUHD, in my head, turns into never fully knowing what you need. This is one I mainly want tested for. Often, someone with ADHD will struggle to focus on something if they don't find it interesting, which is where the stereotype of being bad in school comes from. Because if you're not naturally into the subject at school, then you're going to fidget in class. You're not going to get it. You're going to get bored. However, and this is where I say not everyone with ADHD is bad at school. If you enjoy school, if you like learning, you're going to be focused and you're possibly going to hyper-focus, especially in subjects that you enjoy, which leads into the special interests. If you haven't seen, I have recently done a video on writing characters with autism. I'll pop a link above me now because special interests play a big role in there. But this can also happen with people with ADHD. So if you, for example, really love English, like I did in school, then you're going to enjoy class. I, however, do not like listening. So when it was having to listen to other people read the book, I would just read the book. And then if I was called upon to read, I might not know where the room was up to because I was just reading it at my own pace. That was possibly bad behaviour. But I loved English, so I was good in English. I did well in English. Was not good at maths, but I still passed it. But oh, did I have to work hard at making that information go in. And that's it for this video on how to write characters with ADHD. As I said, I will refer to the start of this video. This is not a video to self-diagnose. This is not a video to tell you these are the things you must do when writing ADHD. It is not that at all. What this video is mainly for is to make you more aware of ADHD and the various pitfalls that the media has fallen into when writing ADHD characters. It is not all a person is. Like my LGBTQ plus video, like my writing characters with autism, writing a character with ADHD is writing any other character. They just might represent people with ADHD and show some traits like stimming, like inattentivity, like hyperfocus, like fidgeting, like leaving a conversation. For an example, if you want a really tropey version of someone with ADHD, you may have characters discussing the plan and the ADHD character has just walked off and is doing what they believe the plan is. They've just gone. This is actually a really common trope in war films. There's always that one character who's busy killing the people in the background whilst the other character is discussing rights. We'll wait for nightfall, and then you just see this character just walking past and just go into the next bit. This could be representation of ADHD. It could also be representation of autism. It could be representation of anyone who's neurodivergent, who's just gone, I'm getting on with this because this is what I'm doing, or I'm not going to sit there and wait because we've got a thing to do, I'm going to get on with it. Often you disassociate with those around you and get on with things, or you've wandered off. It's ways it's being represented, but what you'll notice is these characters are not represented by saying, I have ADHD, I have this, I have that. No one knows. This is me watching these things and thinking, maybe. The best way to write a character with ADHD is to not purposely write a character with ADHD, and then if someone with ADHD reads the book and sees it represented, they can diagnose the character with that and be like, I think they might have this, because ADHD, like autism, is a spectrum and it is different in all people. Do not over-exaggerate. Do not tick off all the different ways ADHD can show. Don't have the diagnosis in front of you and write a character who ticks all those boxes, because that's why it's a hard thing to diagnose. No one ticks all those boxes. Write a character. If you desperately want to represent ADHD, then pick and choose a few things. But what I would definitely say is write a short story from that character's point of view, because what is mainly going to show as ADHD is how the character reacts to things and their behaviours, not the character themselves. So if you learn how they're going to react to things, how they might change or behave, then when you write them, even if the book isn't from their point of view, you're more likely to write them accurately. But remember, this video, not to self-diagnose, not to say this is exactly the be-all and end-all of what you must do. Honestly, just be aware, be sensitive, and take care. Get people to read your book and check it to see if you're represented appropriately. And that's it. Thank you guys so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you found this video useful, don't forget to subscribe to this channel. If you'd like to see as soon as I upload, click the little bell down below. You can also follow me on Instagram, Facebook, and Tumblr. I post your bookish pictures, as well as some writing tips and unboxings on there. And thanks for watching, guys. Bye! I swear, the longer I do this channel, the more I am probably oversharing. I apologise for this.